What's going on, everybody? Voidlego here, back for a brand new episode of Chaos Head Noah. Last time on, we saw Takumi try to explain to his friend about the old whose eyes are those eyes, and basically everything that's been going on in his life that has been driving Takumi even more crazy than he usually is. And so once he goes out to buy some ramen at a convenience store, he notices that the entire city is dead quiet, that there's not a single other human being around. So he goes a little mad trying to find any persons until he finally goes to Scramble Junction, in which he encounters a man in a wheelchair who calls himself Shogun. And he leaves him with some cryptic parting words. Um, Something to the effect of, remember this, Takumi, or you have to keep going. Something to that effect. How Shogun is able to communicate with Takumi this way, what that was, is a mystery, but he's eventually woken up by Remy, who's also at this Scramble Crossing. And in that moment, Takumi finally softens up a little bit on Remy and doesn't think of her as a demonic girl out to kill him. Even though he doesn't show it, within his mind, his barriers start to crack little by little. The next day, he goes to school and tries to, get used to more and more to Remy, but he still can't have the confidence in order to talk to her. And the other transfer student, O'Hara, tries to communicate as well, but she is also very shy and very delicate as well, as she fell down the stairs, fortunately, which was very, sad and cute as well. But after that, after getting pestered by his sister, he, tries to go home, and that's where we are today. I have to say, I still don't know what's going on in this game. Oh! Another thing I should mention before we continue on with this episode, we did get a little segment, a vignette of the overall investigation on into the New Gen murders by the police force. It was a general overview of all the murders so far, and it all looked the same except for the crucifixion murder. There was a photo of the murderer, of the victim, and it wasn't as disturbing as we saw from Takumi's point of view. Instead of him being pierced, like in the neck and the stomach, or everywhere else on his body, it was more like he was pinned by his clothes, and he died by fisty strangulation, rather than bleeding out to death. Which goes to show you that not everything Takumi sees is exactly reality. Even though someone did die, he probably did come across the crucifixion murder scene, but it isn't the exact way he saw it. Because I remember for a fact that when we came across the crucifixion scene, or that CG at least, it was a lot more bloodier than what we saw with the investigation or with the investigators' photos of the crime scene. So definitely something to keep in mind, and also just another point to the category of do not trust every single thing Takumi sees within this story, as I feel like that point has been probably hammered home by this point in the story. One other thing I want to mention is the fact that I'm what's pointing two games where the main character is named Takumi. This and 100 Wine. Which is not going to be confusing at all. Should be fine though. We never see Takumi's face in here with 100 Wine. We know Takumi has a blue and red hair and all of that. So I wonder if there's I wonder if this game's going to give any other connections to the other Let's Play series I'm doing. We already got Battlers VA from Yume Neko. Wonder I doubt there's going to be like a cross reference between fucking Lobotomy Corporation and this. Definitely not Trails from Zero either. I guess you can make the argument for Lobotomy Corporation that deals with the mind or whatever, but it's more general theming. But I don't want a direct reference. But anyway, let's get right into it, shall we? All right. Hikishi Matsumiya was one of my favorite artists. They were ultra famous, and their fans would always form long lines at every one of their events. I'd heard that the new Bloodtoon doujinshi that come out this summer had sold out in no time flat. I wanted to go too, but all of the events where it was being sold at had been way too crowded, to the point where it would have been too much for me. Because of that, I'd found myself tearfully giving up. It'd been naive of me to think manga jake would be safe just because they had consignment sales. There had indeed been some consignment sales, but they'd been annihilated in practically an instant. On various online auctions, the premium price was set at tens of thousands of yen. All scalpers should die in fire. Absolutely, I agree with that. Regardless, with all that in mind, I thought that it was probably impossible to get my hands on it. However, just yesterday, while I'd been surfing that channel, I just so happened to see that the new issue had been recently restarted Manga Direct, which was why I headed for it immediately.
Kami-sama, 奇跡を起こしたまえ.
Maybe, Takumi, maybe. I prayed to the heavens in front of the store, and then I stormed inside. I scanned the doujinshi section with my eyes as wide as dinner plates. I went back and forth down the aisle, searching over and over again to make sure I didn't miss anything. Damn. I really gotta visit, like, a manga store, or really just a bookstore. That whole vibe of just going down the aisles and just looking at, like, pick and choose what volumes to pick out. I need to get, like, physical manga. I don't, but I really should. But I couldn't find it. No, was it already sold out? I casually observed the cashier. It was a girl. She wasn't very cute, but she did seem friendly. I never even once used a hyper-advanced technique known as asking the clerk about whether or not they had a certain item in stock. The reason was, of course, I didn't have the courage to do so. And not only that, but the title of Higashi Matsume's new book was Seratan Cosplayer Gone Wild. So yeah, asking about it was completely impossible. And it's a girl, so like, if it was a guy, maybe. Well, you know. Excuse me, miss, but do you have a copy of Higashi Matsume's Seratan Cosplayer Gone Wild? If I asked a female clerk something like that, I'd no doubt be labeled as a pervert. And I do that for a fact, thank you very much. In the end, I simply gave up on asking the clerk anything, and exited the store dejectedly. Damn.
帰るか.
Or maybe I should go to At Cafe. Flipping between the two as I walked, a sword I had seen before flashed past the edge of my vision. Oh shit. It was a sword with a distinctive two-pronged blade, the one that girl B, the girl who had called herself Sena, had been carrying around the city. In the crowded center guy, the tip of the sword jutted above the heads of people walking down the street. As it got closer to me, I heard we took refuge in a nearby arcade. When I peered out from the shadows, it didn't take long for Sena herself to appear, the sword resting on her shoulder. Wearing an expression that was just as terrifying as ever, she walked quickly towards the station. She didn't seem to have noticed me. But even then, after having experienced humiliation play that was walking around a sword just like hers, the bored way that Sena walked around without a care in the world impressed me. Was she not embarrassed to hold a huge sword like that? I don't know why, but the sword's design kind of reminds me of a hyperdimensional Neptunia. Games I've never played before, but I've seen a lot of images for it. Kind of remind, like, maybe it's the black. Reminds me of I think her name's like Noir. That's supposed to be like a symbolism of a PlayStation or something like that. Maybe it's just the color scheme, but anyway. I mean, she had to have been questioned by the police officer at least once. No way she hadn't. As I pondered that, Sena's figure got farther and farther away. Where do they sell badass DI swords like the one she has, I wondered. The one I got a hold of didn't grow, nor did it have a badass shape, so I wasn't exactly satisfied with it. In comparison to the sword Sena was carrying, mine was far less impressive in terms of design. Stupid Western sword, goddamn design. The entire reason behind me getting a DL sword was to use it as a protective charm. Back at the Scramble Crossing, I'd been trembling in fear and wished for something I could rely on. I mean, DI sword. After Remy had shown up, I'd become slightly more stable, but the situation surrounding me was not getting any better. I still had a lot of enemies, such as Shogun, Yua, etc. That was the reason why I wanted to get my hands on the DI sword that looked way stronger than the one I actually had. Of course, there was also the corrector's spirit found in every otaku. As if drawn to Sena's sword, I'd been staggering over towards Scramble Crossing without realizing it. Oh god, I bit my lip. I didn't want to be out in front of the station. I would reluctantly go to Center Kai or school or whatever because I had things I had to do there, but if I could help it, I prefer not going anywhere near them. Having a crowd of total strangers standing around me made me feel as if any escape route had been stolen away. Just the illusion of that made it hard to breathe. You know, an assassin coming out behind me and stabbing me in the back. It's you, Adatore. Unsurprisingly, the area in front of the station was infested with people. I was starting to feel more and more sick, so I opted to look down at the ground to try to hold back the nausea a bit. Because of that, the next time I looked up, I realized I lost sight of the conspicuous sword. I bet it looked like she'd been walking towards the Hachiko statue, but... shit. Right then, the light above Scramble Crossing turned green. The sea of people rushed into the intersection from various directions. It became pretty chaotic. A whole host of people walking every which way, and they did it all without even so much as bumping into each other. When I saw something like that, I realized how unrealistic the empty Scramble Crossing I'd seen in my delusion the other day really was. There probably wasn't even a single second in the entire year where there were no people in this place. What was I even trying to accomplish by chasing after Sena in the first place? I hadn't even been able to ask the friendly Mangadrake employee whether they had something in stock, so how exactly was I supposed to talk to someone who looked unfriendly and scary looking like Sena? Besides, she might have been my enemy. I didn't know what she'd do to me if I curiously followed her around with any form of protection. What was wrong with me? I should just go home. I finally decided on that, but right when I was about to turn around... What the fuck? I noticed a white chain lying down on the street. I couldn't see the end of it because it was concealed by the legs of various pedestrians, but it seemed to be stretching from where I was standing all the way to the other side of Scramble Crossing. What the hell? It was a ridiculously long chain. Was it for construction or something? But there was no evidence of construction going on anywhere. I couldn't believe they'd left the chain lying around like this. Was this a location they were shooting at for some movie or TV show? No, they wouldn't be filming at a time as crowded as this. Okay, then someone throw it away? A chain this long? It'd already be hard enough just to bring it this far out here. Regardless, it was definitely going to get in the way of people in cars. Tilting my head in confusion, I examined my surroundings to see how people around me were reacting to it. I thought it would be dangerous if somebody caught their leg on it, but not a single person was paying any attention to it. Like it's not even there. I opened my eyes and tried looking at it one more time, thinking that it might be an optical illusion or something, but the chain was still there. I didn't have the courage to touch it, though. It creeped me out too much. It wasn't a cheap-looking plastic one, it was an extremely sturdy-looking iron chain. How long had this thing been left sitting here? If these were normal circumstances, I think it was some kind of trap. After which I would have run away in fear, suspecting that something terrifying might have been waiting for me. But now, for whatever reason, I couldn't help but wonder where the chain led. My mind was overtaken by a compulsive obsession that told me I had to follow this chain. A chain of memories. I crossed the Scramble Crossing before the light turned red, bumping into several pedestrians as I did. At the end of the continuous chain was an old dark green train car that was sitting next to the Hachiko statue. Also, if I remember correctly, is Hachiko the dog that sat for years waiting for their owner to come back after they died. I'm pretty sure that's Hachiko, or maybe I'm thinking of a different dog, but I'm pretty sure that's Hachiko. The wheels have been removed, so it's closer to a monument or an exhibit rather than a functioning train car. You're supposed to be able to enter it freely too. The white chain was extending from the open door to the inside of the train. There were tons of people parked in front of Hachiko, but not one was paying any attention to the chain. Didn't show any signs that they were even aware of it. As well as that, there were no signs of any people in the train at all. With a gulp, I peered inside the train car. Oh, shit. In that moment, I realized it was a trap. I couldn't believe it myself, which was why I hadn't suspected it at all before. The car appeared to be empty, but there was the figure of a single person inside. Aoi Sena was sitting cross-legged on a burgundy train seat. Her sharp gaze was fixed firmly on me. For some reason, she was holding a white-blue popsicle in her hand. That was a Crunchy-kun, right? Forget it. I couldn't care less about Crunchy-kuns right now. More importantly, the gigantic DI sword she had been carrying was mysteriously nowhere to be found. I wondered where she had even managed to put the thing with how huge it was and all. Oh shit. In place of the sword was a white chain coiling around one of her legs. Now, do I go for a delusion this time, or do I just go... I don't want to do a delusion this time. Yeah. It's so interesting of, like, these delusions, like, the more and more we get into the game, the more and more weird shit that happens, the more and more I'm like, I don't want to see the delusions because, well, I want to know what the actual fuck is going on, man. Obviously, I'll come back to them at a later point after I finish with this first playthrough, obviously, but I'm so curious. Which reminded me that back when I first met her in Center Guy, she had said something about finding her in a train car in front of the station. This must have been what she meant. Was she the one who put this chain here? Could she really have been lugging around such a long chain? It looked like it weighed over 10 kilograms, and not only that, but it had to have been over 50 meters long. I had no idea what was up with this girl. She was entirely unknown to me. She wasn't normal. Could she be Shogun? Feeling scared now, I moved to run away without saying anything, only for a sharp voice to strike me right then.
Hide.
Oh boy. I automatically stopped dead in my tracks. A boy in commanding tone, one that acted as if the train belonged to them. Of course, I had no intention of going inside. I didn't know who she was, I was scared of her, and I was awful at talking to 3D women when alone with them. I didn't want anything to do with her.
入れと言っている。
Sena's attitude told me I wasn't allowed to talk back. She hadn't moved a muscle, but I didn't know what she'd do if I showed even the slightest hint of trying to escape. Maybe she was actually a DQN, one that would beat someone up without hesitation. Talk about scary. But if I showed her even the slightest hint of submissiveness, she walked all over me. I'd had to deal with DQN several times up until now. Whenever that happened, the best thing to do was just to run away. It didn't matter if you obeyed them or not, you'd get hurt after they were done with you no matter what you did, so the best option was just to run away. Let's see if I could find an opening. Oh shit. Suddenly, something from behind pushed me hard. Caught off guard, I was unable to brace my legs and I topped clumsily to the ground. Stunned, I looked back towards the entrance to see who the hell had pushed me. There were a lot of people outside the train waiting around for appointments and whatnot, but I couldn't pinpoint which one of them was the culprit. Maybe they had already run away. Why had they felt the need to shove me? Why would someone do something like that? Must have hit my knee when I fallen down as it hurt a little bit. Avoiding eye contact with Sena, I staggered back to my feet. I suddenly realized the bundle of chain that had been Sena's feet just a moment ago had disappeared without a trace. I thought that she'd moved it somewhere, but there had been no sound to indicate that, and she was still sitting on the same seat she'd been sitting on the entire time. Even if she had moved it, where the hell had she moved it to? I didn't see it anywhere in the train. Error? Sena, completely unconcerned with how lost I was, asked me something unintelligible yet again. As I shook my head left and right in confusion, Sena's expression became increasingly stern. She then eventually looked away from me with a small sigh, then took a bite of her popsicle. It's such a cute trait of hers, just eating popsicles. This game has such great sprites. I don't know. Maybe it's just the art style. Maybe it's nostalgia for the anime from the 2000s in me. Sue me. But I fuck with the art style so much, you know? It's so 2000s. I love it, you know? Recently I've been watching Soul Eater, which is yet another very 2000s anime. And I love the shit out of that art style as well. But you know what I mean when I say 2000s anime art style. I fucking love that type of shit. Very exaggerated hair and lily heads and stuff like that. Freed from her sharp gaze, I nearly sank down to the floor once again. Talk about looks that could kill. I would have sat down on one of the seats if I could have, but I realized that she might have said something to me if I did. I couldn't bring myself to.
お前が私をつけてきているのには気づいていた。私が作ったエラーが見えていただろう。
So you did make that chain?
だからエラーって何？
鎖だ。白い鎖。
Okay. If that was what you meant, yeah, I'd seen it. Followed the weird thing all the way here after all.
でもどこにもない。消えたよ。
消した。私の妄想だからな。
Ooh, your delusion? Delusion? What was she talking about?
じゃあ剣は？
お前も持っているだろう。
Excuse me? No, I don't have one. How could I? This wasn't going well. I could barely get a word out.
それよりお前は何者なんだ？見えているみたいだけど。
は？
Sena glanced at me, then jerked her chin towards the window.
この窓の外に何が見える？
People. Lots of people. Felt like there were even more people than before. I felt like I was going to get a headache just from looking at them. There were people with their heads glued to their cell phones, people smiling over phone calls, people standing and staring at the stream of people. Practically everything I saw out the window was people sitting around waiting for other people. I mean, if there were so many people here, why didn't anyone come into this train since I had gotten on?
完璧な世界。そこにあると思うか？
Perfect world?
あるはずがない。エラーは確かに存在する。すべてのものは人も含めて電気仕掛けだからな。
And we're trying to devise. What kind of chuny prod one was that? Don't you eat that damn popsicle and just don't say some cryptic bullshit and eat that popsicle. Jokes aside, I also thought about similar things pretty often. I wasn't trying to say that chuny plot lines are bad and everything. After all, the world was overflowing with books, movies, and anime that were nothing but chuny insanity. Why was it that a writer or a movie director or whoever else could come up with chuny plot lines like that and it was all well and good, but when amateurs like me did it, everyone made fun of us? The world's greats had all been Shumbius. Just think about it. The Wright brothers had generally thought that they could fly through the sky 100 years ago. Napoleon had boasted that the word impossible is not in my dictionary. That's more German than French. That was why Chumbayus weren't something to be mocked. It was the path that all of the world's greats had taken. But my question was, why had this girl suddenly started spouting all this chuny shit at me?
何を見ているかじゃない。 何を見せられているか。
Oh?
人は体の外からの情報を五感によって得ているけど、その受け取る情報のおよそ 80% は視覚から入ってくる。
Oh boy, here we go into truth and what is object reality.
そして視覚から得られた映像はパルス信号となって視神経を通り脳に送られる。
Well, I guess that's the connection to Lobotomy Corporation, since in Lobotomy Corporation, as the manager, you're kind of censored, or your vision is kind of perceived into a much more chippy art style in order to, you know, so you can confront the horrors of having hundreds upon hundreds of employees face indescribable monstrosities being killed by them. So I guess that's a connection to Lobotomy Corporation. I just like games that fuck with your perception of reality. That's the main message here. Just like a telephone, I thought to myself absentmindedly. The telephone converted your voice into electrical signals and then sent that information to a distant location.
電話か。似ていると言えなくもない。
You really do talk out loud, Takumi. Had she just read my mind? No, there's no way. I've been mumbling to myself without realizing it again.
VR 技術を知っているか。
VR? Damn, this is like 2006. What, virtual reality? Of course I didn't actually answer her aloud.
ビジュアルリビルディング。
What the fuck is visual rebuilding? Huh? I was wrong. Never heard of that.
アメリカの精神生理学分野で研究が行われている技術だ。生まれながらに目が不自由な人でも目の前にある景色がちゃんと見えるようになる。ビデオカメラのような映像機器を介してな。どうやってという顔をしているな。だが仕組みとしては単純な話だ。ビデオカメラが映した映像も脳を流れる神経パルスもどちらも突き詰めれば電気による信号なんだぞ。
Yeah.
要は神経パルスにコンバートできる技術さえあればいい。すでに実際にテストは成功している。ある研究チームが特許を取得済みだ。
It was patented? Patented? Seriously? I thought that it was just a fairly hardcore delusion with an impressive amount of depth and detail beyond it, but claiming there was a full-on patent was taken way too far.
その特許から読み取れることがある。
Sena, who had been looking out the window the whole time, turned to face me. She slowly crossed her legs.
ある意図的な情報を神経パルスへコンバートすることが可能なら、人の五感すべて、さらには人の意志そのものもコントロールできるんじゃないか。
Could be possible, and we have seen... I mean, I feel like we've had direct confirmation that there is a secret organization with the no good. So, you know. Even though it was right in front of Shibuya Station, it was strangely quiet on the train. Felt as if it had been deprived of sound itself. It was obviously an illusion, but I don't know but remember the delusion I had several days ago of the deserted Shibuya. As I thought about it, I couldn't take my eyes off the crowd moving outside the window.
さっき言ったように、人は電気仕掛けだ。
Is this going to be like the Matrix or what? Are we all in fucking pods or something? Or like, was that the actual Shibuya? And Shogun's the only actual is Shogun the Morpheus in this case? Haven't seen Matrix. I need to watch the whole series, but you know.
脳だけじゃなく、全身に張り巡らされている神経にも電気が通っている。つまり、肉体的な動きまでも操れるということになる。理論的にはな。
This girl. I was taken aback. I guess that whole that reference to Assassin's Creed I made earlier is actually a little bit more relevant, huh? It's fucking Templar Order. Huh? This girl was even more delusional than both me and Yua combined. What was she saying sounded logical, but it was clearly a total pipe dream.
事実、特許を取得した研究チームも その方向へと研究内容をシフトしている。
Yeah.
あまりに危険すぎる内容だったからアメリカ大統領が歯止めをかけようとして行政命令を出したくらいだ。
Oh shit. How much of what she was saying was actually true?
いかなる機関であろうと政府との事前合意なしに人体の機密の研究を行うことを禁じる。それを支援することも同様であるとな。
The common rule? That's a term I haven't heard before. The United States policy clearly defining and regulating research involving human subjects. Installed in 1981, the full title is a federal policy for the protection of human subjects. Policy states that all institutions performing experimentation involving human subjects must abide by specific rules, consent, agency, provided for hidden or child fears and prisoners. Okay, so basically it's just another way to say, you know, no human experimentation. Never heard that referred to as a common rule. Sena looked downward and clasped her hands, resting on her knees tightly.
だが世の中は腐った連中ばかりだ。倫理を無視して自分の利益のためだけに他者を平気で犠牲にするような連中がな。
Yeah.
ヘドが出る。
After she finished voicing her disgust, she stuck the last chunk of the nearly melted crunchy coon in her mouth, then suddenly stood up. I respectfully started to shrink back, only to run into the wall behind me.
無知は罪だ。知らない方が幸せなこともあるという人間もいるが、そんなのはただの甘えだ。世界を疑え、仕組みを知れ。この世界は完璧じゃない。
She was coming towards me. Thinking she might hit me, I tried to show my face with my arm, but in the end, she swept right past me without doing anything.
お前の見ている景色は本物か?
That's a great question. While walking at me, she remembered that as we passed each other, and then she promptly exited the train by herself. I stared out the window at Sena as she walked away, without looking back at me. Even once, she quickly disappeared into the sea of people. In the end, I have absolutely no clue as to what she'd been trying to tell me. The only thing I took from it was that Sena despised the world. Typical Chumbuyu. From my point of view, though, it sucked ass to have her shoot her poisonous bullshit at me without even letting me get a word in. Her tone of voice and whatnot made me feel like I was being lectured. The way she talked was often a moe characteristic when it came to 2D, but in reality it only served to make her feel even more like a total DQN. But the fact that she attacked me was a relief. Surprised considering that for some reason she always gave off the aura that she was just roaring to slap anyone and everyone. Yeah. I wanted to take a breather after that, so I sat down in the seat where Sena had been sitting before. Immediately following that, a DQN-looking couple suddenly came into the car. After that came a trio of people that were actually DQN Kogaryus, then an older middle-aged man and then a young businessman wearing a suit. Okay, I know one part of that word is Kogaryus. Japanese subculture seeks to rebel against traditional standards. Do you even see Gyarus and their many subgroups? Oh, okay, so it's just called... Okay, it's just Garyu. Never heard of. There are also less extreme types such as Kogaryus, which simply involve wearing school uniforms for very short skirts. Ganguro involves bleached hair, extreme tanning, extensive use of makeup. Well, I've definitely heard of Garyu here and there. I never knew there were other words for different subgenres. Anyway, the train car had become claustrophobic in the blink of an eye. Before Sena had left, no one had even tried to enter the car, so where the hell had they all come from? It was almost like Sena had made it so nobody could see it. If she was able to make a chain, well, why couldn't she make a train car disappear? The voices of the QN couple and the Kogaryus were way too loud, so I quickly got out of there while telling them all to go to hell in my head. Interesting. Shit, man. We got fucking conspiracy theories. We got mysterious girls that claim me to be our friends since, freshman year. We got girls that, seem very fragile and are very shy. We also have Yua, who is very suspicious of Takayumi. We just got every type of girl in this, huh? Interesting. So yeah, that's how I ended up getting tangled up with an IRL Chune chick. Okay, asshole, this time you have pissed me off. Seriously, One Night Heart, you're always saying shit like, "Oh, I don't give a fuck about BD," but you've been getting real nice and close with a bunch of 3D girls recently, haven't you? Even said earlier that one of them broke into your house. I don't care who you ask, that's straight out of the okay. You plunged straight into your once-in-a-lifetime chance to be popular. Alright, listen well. I don't know why, but I feel like Grimm is just fucking Daru from Steins Gate. I'll admit that I have indeed amassed quite the number of opportunities to speak with cute females. However, every single IRL one is a fucking mental case. You try being on the receiving end of their brain-melting Denpa attacks. The sheer scale of schizo, it's genuinely horrifying. Okay, I truly am sorry. Don't worry about it. Even after I got back home, I'd still been somewhat interested in what Sena had told me. Of course, I didn't think that what she said was true, but I was pretty sure that I'd be able to confirm it myself if I did a little bit of research into the patent and the memorandum specifically. So with Grimm's help, I started searching the internet. I also was able to get one of Grimm's friends who lived in America to help out as well. But even with all that help, I still didn't think we were going to find anything. In this day and age, you can trust anyone without a source. Yo, I just got a message from Shiro. Also, I guess I should mention this. I guess it definitely correlates with Steins Gate. Since, obviously, this whole series is called the Science Adventure series. They each deal with a specific field of science fiction. Steins Gate obviously deals with time travel science fiction. Well, it seems like in this, well, I'm going to guess, it's psychological of technology that messes with your senses. Your mind, for example, or your eyes. Since Steins Gate was all about, like, how, like, is it possible to have time travel? How would it actually work? What would be the theory behind that? I guess the question that this game is proposing is, maybe, this could be it. I feel like we're still very early into this game. What this game is proposing is, can you mess with people's perceptions without them noticing? Can you create a different reality than what's actually happening in front of them? Kind of like The Matrix, for example. Can you totally create an artificial reality? Can you fuck with somebody's eyes? Make them think, what their reality is true, where in reality, in actual reality, it's a delusion, simply. I wonder if that's the question that this game is trying to answer. So, Shiro is the friend of Grimm that I mentioned earlier. He lived in America and spoke fluent English. Let me guess. BS, right? That stupid fucking mental case. She had to have just been making a fool out of me because she didn't think I could understand English. Don't underestimate the power of the internet. Consider yourself pwned. It exists, apparently. Ooh. It exists? What did? The guy went out of his way to TL it to us. Anyway, let me up it. Is this just more BS? Man, you don't trust me at all, do you? Although it's probably my fault for being an ass most of the time. Okay, how about I invite Shiro instead? Ooh. I've been tricked by Grimm several times in the past. If I trusted him like I usually did, he'd hit me with something so bad that would make my brain brusquely. But he was saying that he was going to invite Shiro, and that he even had a source for us. If this was just you being mean again, I'll kick you out of the guild. Okay, just me just this once. He was being surprisingly confident. Maybe it really was okay to trust him this time.
くそ、僕はなんてお人よしなんだ。
Slightly nervous, I squinted my eyes halfway shut to protect myself from seeing anything too quickly or too clearly. Then I clicked the link.
No.
Oh shit.
なんだこれ。
I mean, prefrontal lobotomy, son of a bitch. Oh fuck. It was a document written in English with a bunch of strange diagrams on the lower half. Part of it looked like a human face. The headline read United States Patent. I knew that much at least. In other words, this was...
アメリカの特許。
Son of a bitch. Remote viewing orbital frontal cortex. Segment function, signal to noise ratio, integrated non-linearity, differential non-linearity, offset error, absolute accuracy, gain error.
VR 技術を知っているか？すでに実際にテストは成功している。ある研究チームが特許を取得済みだ。
It was real. I then went to open one of the 2 text files that had come bundled with it. One of them had a series of news articles that seemed to mention the patent, all of which were translated into Japanese. One said that the psychophysiologically research laboratory of America's Victor Kondahara University was currently researching a groundbreaking invention known as VR, visual rebuilding. As the goal of the research was primarily for healthcare, it had been gaining the attention of visually impaired people from all over the world. It was groundbreaking technology that enabled people who were blind from birth to see the scenery in front of them through video cameras and other imaging devices. To put it simply, this was done by converting signals, the ones that compose the image data that the video camera received, to the only signal the brain could recognize, electrical signals known as nerve impulses. These are then transported to the brain via the optical nerve. There had already been successful tests, and the patent had already been registered.
特許。本当に認められてる。
Okay. Well, this is in America, so are people is the what's the organization after then? If they have this, are they trying to catch up with it, or are they trying to do this on the Japanese people? But for what reason? To cover up what, or to divert attention from something else? Like, what would be the point of masking the abject reality? Huh? So did that mean that what Sena had said wasn't just some chuny delusion? I gulped and went to open the other text file. I began reading. Presidential Documents, Memorandum of March 27, 1997, strengthening protections for human subjects of classified research. The agency shall jointly propose to prohibit waiver of informed consent for classified research, part of it said. Ooh. Beginning 1 year after the date of this memorandum, no agency shall conduct or support classified human research without having proposed and promulgated the common rule, said another. The document was then signed at the bottom by William J. Clinton, enclosed with the White House, Washington, March 27, 1997. William J. Clinton, now who the fuck could that be? Millennium from the President of the United States. The content sounded like the premise to a movie or something, so I never would have thought it was actually real. I went to check the original document via the URL. Even I could read English for the most part, despite how I might have looked. I was a lot smaller than those DQNs I went to school every day. The actual contents written in the document are the same as the translated text.
ということは。
Sena's words echoed on the back of my mind.
ある意図的な情報を神経パルスへコンバートすることが可能なら、人の五感すべて さらには人の意志そのものもコントロールできるんじゃないか。
Shit. Didn't we already get an example of this with Takumi's sister? Like, I still remember when she thought she saw her parents on the side of the street, even though they weren't actually there, and she said her brain was fuzzy. So they're already testing it. They're testing it. But how far has the testing gone by this point, you know? It was starting to get somewhat difficult to understand at this point, but with what Sena told me, combined with the sources we found online that backed her up, it all sent chills down my spine. I had a feeling that something terrible was working within. But what confused me the most was what Sena's true intentions were in telling me all of this. Did it have anything to do with me? The part about being able to control people's free will definitely wasn't something I could dismiss as somebody else's problem. Because there was the possibility that I was a sleepwalker. On the day of the third New Gen incident, the crucifixion, I'd been told that I'd been posting in a chat room as Shogun, apparently. Posted from Ad Cafe too, but I had no memory of any of it. And not only that, but I had absolutely no memory of Remy too. We had been classmates for over a year, and we had been close enough to hang out on multiple occasions. I had no memory of any of it. Shit! That would make total sense then, if we're taking this into effect, that, like, there is an invention out there that is able to control people's optical nerves and show them something else, that Remy could have been here the whole time, but for some reason, for some unexplainable reason, this secret, shadowy organization made sure to cover up Remy and Takumi's mind? But why the hell would they do that? And how the hell does this connect to the New Gen murders? Actually, I may have an idea about that. Maybe the New Gen murders are simply a diversion tactic by the organization in order to divert attention from what's actually going on. By creating this, you know, public hysteria about, you know, oh, there's a murderer about that's killing people in these gruesome ways. Able to keep public focus on that while they're able to do other shady shit in the background while everyone's more focused on the New Gen murders within Shibuya. Maybe that is the point of the New Gen murders. It isn't like a single person. It isn't like a serial killer. It's simply just a diversion tactic. It is simply a red herring. That's what they are. The New Gen murders, they're simply a red herring for the public to focus on that, while this organization, I know we know their name, but I can't remember at this point, while this organization continues testing out this remote viewing technology in order to transform the public's perception. But that's my theory for right now, at least. Maybe I had done all of those things while I was being manipulated by some other being. Besides, I wasn't terrible at talking to 3D girls to begin with, so there was no way I would be close to a cute girl like Remy normally. Well, actually, I remember that it was mentioned when Takumi was in the hospital after the bus accident. He said there was a black-suited man in the room while he was being, you know, not experimented on, but, like, you know, treated. He noticed there was a black-suited man there, and we also took a survey of the, what organization name was it? Fuck, I can't remember. We did take a survey, though. We took a survey of that, though. So, obviously, this organization has been keeping an eye on Takumi for a long time. In order, maybe because he's more susceptible to delusions? That could be an idea. He's more susceptible to false realities, as we've seen countless times. That's why they focus all of their efforts on testing, like, first test on him first. By, you know, for example, cutting off a very important person in his life, such as Remy. Like, if they're able to cut such a a best friend that he's had for years, if they're able to completely get rid of any memories of her, they could do anything by that point. So, yeah, I mean, if I think about it that way, it makes sense then. He's just a guinea pig. No, I was thinking too hard about this. At the very least, I knew that the chat thing was just one of Yua's delusions. Shogun was a separate entity from me. He was trying to trap me and didn't go beyond that. This was true regardless of whether or not he had actually been the old man in the real chair that appeared in front of 107. Maybe Sena too was one of Shogun's underlings. Maybe she was just trying to deceive me. Don't just blindly accept everything without questioning it. Don't trust a suspicious girl that you don't actually know. Sena and Yua were both the same breed. That's how it should go, right, Saratan? Well, speaking of Yua, the only sound present in the room was the distinct clacking of a keyboard. Kusunoki, Yua's thin, supple fingers moved as if they were dancing, her gaze fixed on the monitor all the while. Her touch typing was effortless, and she made next to no typos. She was writing an email. A very long one at that. Yua had already been writing for almost half an hour, endlessly deliberating over the contents of the email and making frequent revisions as she continued to type. Suddenly, her fingers stopped moving. With a small pained sigh, she abruptly pressed and held down the backspace key. The cursor that was lit up on the monitor began scrolling leftward at high speed. All of the long sentences she had written so far disappeared nearly instantaneously as the cursor traveled across the screen. When all of the contents had been erased, Yua took hold of the Gurgufari stuffed animal lying in her bed, then hugged it tightly to her chest. This was a habit that Yua developed recently. She did not hug something in this way. She would be faced with unbearable anxiety. Oh. Burying her chin on the stuffed animal, Yua sighed once again and shook her head softly.
私に勇気をください.
Ooh. Murmuring softly to no one in particular, Yua's expression stiffened. With the stuffed animal resting on her lap, she returned her hands to the keyboard. Within the monitor, each letter she typed in a fluid manner was quickly displayed in sequence. Compared to the one she had erased just moments before, this email was far more short and simple. It only served to provide the bare necessities of what she needed to convey. When she finished writing, Yua hesitated for a moment, and then she resolutely clicked on the send icon.
送っちゃった.
Before she could stop it from going through, the email had already been sent in the blink of an eye. Yua squeezed the Gregor Fargi sitting on her lap tightly and continued to stare at the monitor in front of her for over an hour. Although she had not been expecting one, there was no sign of a reply at all. Now what email? Who did Yua email? Perhaps Takayumi? There I was, in my beloved room 37, as I sank down into the recliner, started chewing on my nails in an attempt to distract myself from my irritation. There was a reason why I'd come to Ad Cafe 2 days in a row, yesterday and today. 2 nights ago, after Grim, Shiro, and I had found out what Sena had said was true, I received an email from Yua. Oh, okay, well, then, confirmation. In it, she insinuously said that she wanted to talk to me one more time. Fuck off, I want to tell her. Oh! Yeah. I don't know, I just want to say this. Yua kind of reminds me of, what's her name, Monica? Who was the red-haired girl from Steins Gate that only used her phone messenger? Only used text messaging as a way to communicate. I think her name was Monica. It's hard with an M, I think. I think it was Monica or something to that effect. I don't know. Yua kind of reminds me of her. I don't know. Maybe because they both use internet communication to communicate to other people, even though Yua actually talks. But, you know, and they all both wear glasses. So, yeah. Surface level bullshit like that. What the hell did she mean she wanted to talk after deceiving me like that? I had nothing to say to her. Even if I did, she'd probably just come up with some new fancy way to trap me, even if I went to see her, so if I could risk that. It was true that I wasn't used to talking to girls. That's why I had been so happy back when Yua was hitting on me. And yet the Harwots had been toying with me behind my back. And on top of that, she'd come up with all those insane delusions. Even I had delusions, sure, but I never bothered anyone else with them. But that girl assaulted me with her schizo BS that treated me like I was a new gen culprit. Could never forgive what she'd done to me, never. So I ignored her email, but there had still been one thing that concerned me. In her email, she said she was going to come to my base, and I knew for a fact that she knew my address. That was why I decided to take refuge in that cafe, despite it not being a school day. If I had the option, I would have bought my DI sword as a protection charm, but unlike Sena, I didn't have the courage to walk down Center Guy with it. At any rate, spending almost half a day in an internet cafe was fairly tiring. The recliners were comfortable and was equipped with showers, but I still couldn't fully relax like I could at my base. And then the biggest problem of all, Saratan wasn't here. Oh, I really thought it was like, I could jack off in peace. Hey, don't blame me. This game has gone there already, so, you know. After 2 days spent holed up in the cafe, I realized just how much the mere presence of Saratan helped me. I wanted to hurry up and get back to my base as soon as possible. I just realized something. Fucking Takumi's whole relationship with Saratan and, you know, the figurines of her is literally that, stupid meme of, like, a character saying, like, can you stop fucking around? Like, that's pretty much Takumi's, like, the whole thing with Sarah. Can you stop fucking around, will you? Yeah. But going back late at night would mean the date would change. And by that time, the last train would already be gone. Figured that Yua most likely wouldn't be waiting for me anymore by then. I had to stick around for another 4 hours before the clock would strike midnight. I was sure time would go by a lot faster if I played ESO. I moved my gaze over to the PC monitor. My second character, Weaselette, was standing there, aimlessly, not moving.
お前の見ている景色は本物か?
Sena's words came to mind. More than half of what she said was true. The only thing I couldn't find a source for was the part where she was talking about controlling even people's wills and bodies. Maybe that part was just the delusion of hers. Yeah. Mixing in just a few lies with the truth was a clever and effective way to scare people, especially with threats. Even though my reasonable side knew all that, I couldn't help but feel scared as I thought about all the strange, inexplicable phenomenon that had been plaguing me over the past few weeks. Yeah. In the days, I looked at Weaselette on the screen.
リーゼロってお前の見ている景色は本物か?
Keeping my voice low to avoid being overheard, I whispered that absent-mindedly. I thought about something like this several times in the past. The world that I was looking at right now, Base Ward, was the world that Weaselette lived in. It might have been real for her, but from my perspective it was fake. Which meant that the world that I lived in was seen as fake from the point of view of the person controlling me. Yeah. However, just as Weaselette couldn't perceive me as a higher being, I also couldn't perceive the person controlling me as a higher being. I wondered if Weaselette was thinking the same things that I was thinking. At the very least, she couldn't move on her own. I had to interface in order for her to move. So what about me? Maybe I too couldn't get up from this recliner without the interface of the person controlling me. Yeah, I mean, if I don't click anything, we just stay in this one thought for all eternity. But with the simple click of a mouse, the story continues on. Like the turning of a page. To test this, I try to stand up. Did with ease. After that, I tried sitting down. Took no effort. But this sequence of events, was it really of my own volition? Or was it the result of someone's interface? I had no way of knowing.
Eh?
Oh shit. I heard the sound of the partition door to the private room being opened behind me, and at the same time I felt someone come in. Startled, I turned around. Yua. Yeah. Kasanoki. Yua! I was so terrified that I was about to scream. Oh shit. But Yua's hand quickly covered my mouth. Her hand was hot, and the scent of Yua's sweat infiltrated my nose.
黙って声を出さないで出さないって約束して
Oh god.
約束してくれるよねしないなんて言わないよね約束してするでしょするのお願い
The fuck you want me to do in this situation? In this small private room, the only way out was blocked by Yua. Shit, should I go for another delusion? Or should I just go for no delusion? Decisions. Alright. You know what? Fuck it. Let's go with a, I don't feel like we have done a bad one yet. So let's do a bad delusion for this part right here. Or maybe I should... damn. What should I go for? Should I go for a bad delusion or should I go for a no delusion? Something Sena had said was very interesting, that she was able to produce the chain via her delusion, right? So I really wonder, by doing these delusions, does reality actually change in that instant? So shouldn't I go for a good delusion then? You know what? Fuck it. Let's do a bad one. We haven't done a bad one in a while. The next thing I knew, my shoulders were being held down with such incredible force I couldn't even get up from the seat. Yua's cold gaze pierced through me at point-blank range. I couldn't help but look away. My eyes fell on the three Gregophages attached to the bag she was carrying on her shoulder.
いい声を出さないで
God. Bad touch. Yua's hand slowly started to release me. I tried to scream, but my mouth was quickly covered once again. I could barely breathe.
どうして声を出すの約束したのにしたよねしたって言ってしたでしょしたよ
Uh-oh. Yua's grip strength wasn't normal. Also, we didn't have a transition either. Keeping her hand clamped over my mouth, she forcefully tightened her grip on my chin. Yeah, there wasn't a transition or anything. My fear reached its peak and my knees started to tremble. I could no longer do anything but nod frantically, and Yua's nearly inaudible words, each one sounding as if they didn't have a single shred of emotion behind them. It finally made Yua weaken the grip she had my chin, but she didn't let go like she had before. Damn it, this bitch was an actual bona fide stalker! Never thought that she'd show up here!
ごめんなさい
As if to avoid being overheard by anyone around her, Yura whispered to me quietly, and her tone of voice reverted to her usual timid one. It was like she had two personalities or something. This girl was insane!
驚かせちゃいましたよね
Fucking a little!
でも西条くんとお話しするにはこうするしかなかったんです
She looked genuinely sorry. Curiously enough, I almost felt guilty just by looking at her. She was an amazing actor.
昨日あなたの家に行ったんですけどいませんでしたよね夜まで待ってたんですけどでも私を避けようとする西条くんの気持ちはよくわかります私西条くんのこと騙してたわけだし
If you acknowledge that, then just stay away from me. I have nothing to say to any of Shogun's underlings. Anyone who traps a weak person like me is a demon.
でもお願いです一つだけ言わせてくださいこれ以上あなたが傷つくのもあなたが不幸になるのも あなたのせいで不幸になる人が出るのも見たくないんです。
What the hell are you talking about? What was she talking about? She was talking as if she knew everything about me, despite the fact that we hadn't even spent 24 hours together. Just what the hell did this girl actually know about me? Was this another one of her signature batshit insane delusions? Shudder ran through me, and I started furrowing my arms and legs. But even so, Yua didn't let go. This went on for much longer. This girl might actually kill me. Had Shogun given up on trying to trap me and had just sent Yua as an assassin instead? I don't want to die. I don't want to die. I don't want to die!
ごめんなさい。お願いだから静かにしてください。話はすぐ終わりますから。
What do you mean, almost done? The tone of her voice was meek, but the power behind Yua's hands as she held me down was so strong, even if I tried to resist, she wouldn't budge an inch. I couldn't believe that such slender hands could be so powerful.
西条くん。
Yua inched her face closer and closer to mine. I desperately turned my head away.
もう
That was when I noticed Yua's hands were trembling. Or was it just that my hands were shaking so much it made it look like hers was too? While I pondered that, something unbelievable came out of her mouth.
人を殺すのはやめてください。
What? What?
自覚がないんですね。
Oh.
でもそれも私には理解できます。西条くんに自覚があるはずないから。
Shit. I mean... we really haven't deconfirmed that Takumi isn't behind the new gen murders. We know for a fact that Shogun is his second person, not I don't know, he sweepwalks as Shogun, quote unquote, but if that really is a second personality or somebody else controlling his mind while he's sleeping, who knows? But anyway, there is though some weight to Yua's theory of Takumi being the new gen murderer, I guess. But knowing what?
あなたは
Yua's eyes shone with sorrow. Even though she had been staring at me intently until now, she suddenly cast her eyes downward.
DID 多重人格なんです。
I had multiple personalities?
最初はあなたのこと警察に突き出すつもりでした。
Despite how confused I was, Yua continued to talk.
それが無理ならこの手でとも思ってました。だけどあなたのこと調べていくうちにあなたも苦しんでるんだって分かって。
Oh, what? The eyes behind Yua's glasses once again took a hold of me. They pleaded with me. No matter how hard I tried to see it as something else, I couldn't see her as anything other than genuinely worried about me. And that horrified me.
私あなたを助けたい。
This girl's delusions were getting out of control. What was she saying was totally insane. Or was it? Was it really insane?
だから病院に行きましょう。
Shit. I didn't truly know myself, understand myself. I had posted in chat room under the handle Shogun without knowing it. Even though I had no memory of it, I had become friends with a girl named Remy. It wasn't just me sleepwalking, and it wasn't some higher being controlling me. Maybe if he was the person controlling me from inside my head, who really was inside my head. It wasn't me. I wasn't me, I was a different personality. I had multiple personalities. I had heard a throbbing and stabbing pain ripped through it. That wasn't possible. The entire thing was bullshit. Who would ever believe that? It, too, was yet another one of Yua's delusions. She was my enemy. She was impeding my way of life. She was trying to trap me. She was trying to destroy my mind. Even the hospital itself was under Shogun's reign. The only person I trusted, Dr. Takashina, had disappeared in such a sudden, inexplicable manner. That's right. Shogun must have made him disappear. If I did what Yua said, he'd make me disappear too. I don't believe her. It's not true. It's not true, 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 it's not true. I was stuck in my own head. I shoved you off me with every ounce of strength I could muster. Slamming into the wooden sweating door behind her, Yua slumped down to the floor for grimace. Finally freed from Yua's grasp, I grabbed my bag, stepped over Yua's body, and made for the exit. Still crumpled on the floor, Yua grabbed my ankle. Her hair was disheveled and her glasses were falling off her face, but she made no effort to fix them. Seeing her clinging so desperately to me terrified me so much. A pathetic scream escaped from my mouth. She was my enemy, one of Shogun's underlings. I won't be deceived. I won't be deceived by you ever again. I shouted as loud as I could, and Yua quickly let go of me. In that window, I bolted out of the room. I tore a 5,000 yen bill from my wallet, slammed it down on the counter in front of the dumbfounded receptionist. And then, without getting my change, I burst onto the elevator, running outside. I nearly tumbled out of the elevator as I burst outside. The sun was already setting. I examined my surroundings. There were people everywhere. Run. Doesn't matter where, just run. My base wasn't safe. She was following me. I had no idea where to even go, but I started running anyway. Thinking that Yua might get off another elevator in a moment now, that she might friend me again in the ice-cold voice of hers. I didn't want to stay there for even a second longer. I looked behind me over and over again, but I kept on running regardless of what I saw. The pedestrians were all in the way. I bumped into a businessman and DQNS high school girl. When that happened, I was showered with curses. But I still didn't stop, I just kept on running. It hurt to breathe. I picked some random ass road without thinking. I still had no idea where I was running. I stopped to catch my breath. I checked the scenery around where I was standing. It was in front of Maruuchi, which meant I could take shelter in Mishata Park. I should take a quick break there, then I would run somewhere farther away. If I went to Yogi Park, there would be plenty of places to hide, so I could spend the night there. I couldn't help but wonder what was behind me. Didn't see any signs of Yua. However, I wouldn't be surprised if she appeared in front of me at any second now, complete with the most terrifying demonic expression I'd ever encountered. My instinct screamed at me. Run! You need to run! The great king of terror has taken this city. Ooh, exhausted, I weakly sat down on the pavement of the Mishata Park overpass. I feel like Yua is probably telling the truth. Like, she does believe that, you know, Takumi is behind the murders, and, I mean, she genuinely wants to help him, and I guess, I mean, she said it herself, she also has this same kind of problem with, maybe she also has DID. I mean, we can see how quickly she switches, or, well, it's not really a two-person, more possibly bipolar disorder, with how quickly her emotions change from cold and, you know, emotionless to pleading. Maybe it's that, or maybe it's just simply the view of Takumi, seeing those eyes from her. It's just kind of the same thing as we saw in Higurashi chapter 1. Who knows? But obviously Yua has good intentions, but obviously it's not the greatest way to go about it. I went away too much. My throat was dying. I wanted to drink a nice ice cold cola. I didn't see any vending machines nearby. Maybe I was okay now that I'd come this far. No, I couldn't be careless. I still had to be fully aware of my surroundings. There should only be a few people in Mishitara Park at night, or at least that was what I expected, but much to my surprise, that wasn't the case. There was a businessman walking briskly through the park, likely using it as a shortcut. An older man sitting on the bench, messing with his cell phone. Several homeless people sitting around absent-mindedly. Last way, a person wearing blue talking to one of them. Police officer. Oh shit. The police. I gulped audibly. We got another choice here. Now, what's very interesting about these delusions is that sometimes there is a right choice. For example, the last one we just chose, which was a quote-unquote bad delusion, that was still reality. That was still, like, it didn't transition or anything. So it seems like there is, like, I'm just thinking out loud here. The most likely way to get to, like, the quote-unquote true ending here is possibly to choose the right delusions at the right scenes. You know, like, the truth isn't simply just like, oh, you don't choose no delusions at all. That would, it won't be as simple as that. But, like, a specific combination of, like, okay, good delusion here, no delusion here, then bad delusion, then, you know, vice versa, or whatever. That's probably the way to, like, actually get to the true ending here. So, we went for bad, so let's go with good here. Let's see. I remembered that I'd been questioned by a pair of detectives a while ago, Harry Dubois and Kim Kitsuwagi. I hadn't heard a single thing from them since then. They said they were going to guard the area surrounding my base, but there was no sign of them following through on it. Although, according to Masumi-kun, they apparently come to investigate Sumire. Those two detectives, what were their names again? I can't remember. They told both of them the truth about what I'd witnessed at the scene of the crucifixion. When in hindsight, I couldn't help but think they'd cruelly been looking at me with suspicion as I did. Right as I thought that, the policeman who'd been talking to the homeless man glanced at me, or at least that was how it felt. Oh no. No, I had to be imagining things. Oh. There's no way the police would suspect me of anything. I wasn't a murderer. I wouldn't hurt a fly. Forget that for now. I just take a break for a little bit longer. My chest still hadn't stopped pounding. For no particular reason, I looked up at the night sky as my shallow breathing continued. I couldn't see any stars. The growing artificial light that shone above the ground cast a thin veil across the Shibuya sky. It blocked out even the faintest light of the stars that had traveled for decades, for centuries to get here, transforming the night sky into a flat, motionless blackness. What a piece of shit sky. But it was normal for Shibuya. For someone living in Shibuya, this sky was my sky. I returned my gaze to the policeman from earlier, and I jumped. The policeman was coming toward me. I had to avoid making eye contact. Oh shit. I stood up and turned my eyes to the road stretching under the overpass. The footsteps were getting closer and closer. I prayed from the bottom of my heart that they would pass by me. But...
Gimme!
A voice called out, one that was clearly directed at me.
ちょっといいか?
Oh shit. My heartbeat, which had only just started to calm down, began to violently pound in my chest once more.
すいません。急いでるんで。
そうは見えないな。
Who? What reason could this cop have possibly had for talking to me? I started putting a list together inside my head. 1, because I'm alone at night in an unusual place. 2, because I look suspicious. 3, because they're just questioning people at random. 4, because the police think I'm a suspect for the new gen case.
身分を証明するもの。そうだな。生徒手帳を見せてくれないか?
Oh shit. Damn it, I didn't have time for this. I need to hurry up and hide somewhere less conspicuous. If I didn't, you would find me again. But if I ran away from the cops, I could get arrested for obstruction of justice. Not only that, but if they were investigating me because of reason number 4, then bolting would put me in an even worse position. Regardless of the circumstances, I had to get past this cop, and I did it fast. With no other options, I took my student handbook out from inside my uniform pocket and handed it to the officer. The officer took it and flipped through it, open to check my name and photo. Immediately after, something changed in his face. The expression stiffened. What? What was up with him? Did my name really warrant that kind of reaction? Maybe I really am a new gen suspect. The police were mistaken. I hadn't done anything. Yua made up her mind, decided that I was the new German criminal. She said I just wasn't aware of it. That couldn't be true. I didn't sleepwalk. I didn't have multiple personalities. Stop screwing with my head!
ありがとう。
Oh. To my surprise, the policeman readily returned my handbook to me. He then quickly turned back around and headed toward the park, almost as if running away. How he was acting spoke far louder than words. I had a terrible feeling about this. Did they actually suspect me? I stared at the officer's back, frozen. Then, the policeman suddenly gave a wide bow to the man sitting on the bench, or at least that was what it looked like. Something's off. Was it just my imagination? I knew for a fact that he'd looked at the man on the bench, but I couldn't figure out if he'd actually bowed to him or if it just looked like he had. The policeman left the park directly after that. The man on the bench looked like he was still messing with his cell phone. Looked like being the key words. It didn't even look like his fingers were moving. I couldn't see him clearly because of the darkness. Normally the cell phone screen would be glowing, but the one he was holding was completely dark. Something's really off here. I looked around to check on everyone else in the park. One of the homeless people was slouching on the ground at the base of a large tree, a spot that was far removed from the others. He didn't move in the slightest. All he did was hold up a strange sign, his face staring down on the ground. The three or so homeless people squatted in front of the small hut covered by a blue tarp didn't seem to have much of a conversation. They were just sitting around in a circle. One of them had their hand over their mouth. It almost seemed like they were doing it deliberately, like they were trying to cover their mouth with their hand or collar or something, or at least that was what it looked like. I don't know why exactly, but something feels off. There was a strange sense of tension seizing the air. Granted, it could have just been my imagination, but... Hold on. Was it possible that everyone was an undercover cop? The delusion floated up to the top of my head, and I shuddered. I frantically told myself that it was nothing more than that, a delusion. But even if it was, I didn't want to stay here any longer. Time to run. I broke into a sprint. Shit. I ran across the overpass and headed for the stairs leading down to Mejidori. I stopped right in front of them and ripped around to look behind me. The man on the bench was getting up. None of the other people moved. His body turned toward me, but his head was facing sideways. He was making his way toward me. He seemed to be walking a little faster than someone normally would. He was chasing me. That man was a detective. His build was unusually bulky. I didn't even know what his job could be otherwise. I couldn't figure anything out from his appearance alone. I can't tell if he's a detective from just that. No, he had to be one. There was no way he wasn't one. He was tailing me. I couldn't stay here. I bolted down the stairs. Shit. Now it wasn't just you that was after me, but the police too. I hadn't done anything wrong. I hadn't done anything at all. Should I just tell them I was innocent? But even if I did, I couldn't get away from the fact that I was literally running away from the police right now. Besides, I was sure that the police would find some way to pin it on me regardless. They would never believe in an otaku freak like me. I didn't have time to think about what would happen next. For now, I just needed to get away from Yua and the police. That was the sole thought occupying my mind. I passed under a pedestrian overpass and ran up the stairs leading to it. There were people everywhere. All of them were blocking my path. It felt as if each and every one of them were deliberately getting in my way, like they had all some sort of malicious intent. Everyone looked like they could be cops. I was this close to completely panicking. I looked behind me and saw someone sprinting after me. I got a glimpse of a person cutting through the crowd just like I was. It was one of the people that I'd seen in the park. I didn't know who it was. Didn't matter. They were following me regardless. I was horrified. If I got caught, my life would be over. I would be falsely accused of a crime. I'd get mid-sentence to death, locked up in high security prison for decades and decades, and then after I finished enduring that living hell, I would finally be told, alrighty then, your number's up, time for you to die. I didn't want that. I wouldn't be able to handle that. I don't want to live like that. Even if I somehow managed to prove that it was a false accusation, once I was branded as a criminal, I would never go away. Everyone around me would look at me suspiciously for the rest of my life. I didn't want that. I hadn't even done anything. I turned onto a small street that was completely deserted and kept running as hard as I could. But I had been running ever since I left the Ad Cafe and I still hadn't been able to catch my breath. My lungs were begging for oxygen, my legs were shaking for fatigue. I hated myself for not exercising more, but I was too late for that regardless. Right away, couldn't run anymore, so I doubled over and gripped my knees with my hands. The place where I'd stopped looked familiar. The distinctive red brick walls paired with that gigantic black wood site that read Gigantes. I've been here before with Masumi-kun. We come to see a Phantasm concert, or to be more specific, to see their lead singer at FES. But now the place was quiet and empty, with the only other light being from the vending machine dimly illuminating my surroundings. Frustrated, my breathing still hadn't gone back to normal. I worked back toward the road I sprinted down. The street was dimly lit and narrow. As a Tokyo line train slowly passed by directly above me, despite the striking glow of the light leaking from the windows of the train, even it didn't reach the streets below. I stared at the road in front of me. I wondered if I had managed to lose them, them being you and the police. It was too dark for me to tell for sure.
私についてきて。
Uh-oh. Suddenly, I heard a woman's voice in my ear, and I let out a pathetic scream before toppling to the ground. Oh shit. It was FES dressed in the flashy outfit that she would wear to a concert. She quietly looked down at me from the darkness. The eruptive energy that she'd given off while she was on stage was now completely absent, making her appear almost transient, like she might disappear at any moment. Because of the darkness, I can see her expression. As my mind wandered in my surprise, FES gently held her hand out to me.
だって、早く。
Her tone of voice was dispassionate, but I could tell that she wasn't going to let me argue with her. Still holding out her hand, FES slowly craned her neck, then narrowed her eyes as if she had seen through the darkness.
逃げないと。
Oh shit. Why? Did she know that I'd been running from Yua and the police? I was freaked out for a second, but I knew that right now salvation was almost within my grasp. That was why, as if I was clinging to my only hope left, I took her hand. Her hand was cold to the touch. Right as I stood up, FES started running. As I was already utterly exhausted, I felt incredible resentment, but I knew that if it hadn't been for FES, I would never have been able to stand up again, and the police would have likely caught up with me. What if it isn't the police? What if that's the organization? I still wanted to quench my dying thirst in some way, but I knew I couldn't afford to. FES pulled me by the hand and led us forward. We entered a narrow alleyway and made turn after turn at various intersections. I had no idea where I was running to. I wasn't even familiar with the way out of Shibuya, so I had no choice but to follow FES the entire time. I nearly entertained the idea that this could be another trap set by Shogun, but I shook the thought from my head. Even if FES was another one of Shogun's underlings, there would be nothing I could do about it. My legs were heavy with lactic acid, and I was starting to feel lightheaded, probably because my brain had been getting enough oxygen due to all the running. I was this close to crying out and saying that I couldn't run anymore. In fact, I may or may not have said it several times unconsciously. But even so, FES never once looked back at me. She just kept on going. Before I knew it, I found myself on a road where the Shuto Expressway ran overhead. Shibuya Station was only a little bit farther away, but there were barely any people around. Without a shred of hesitation, FES started to head down the stairs that led into the gaping maw of the underground. Upon reaching the bottom of the stairs, she finally came to a stop. I let go of FES's hand and doubled over the stairs, gasping for breath. I wondered how much running I had done today. I didn't think I'd ever exercised so much in my entire life. For a while, the only sounds present in the dim, dreary underground tunnel were the sounds of me and FES breathing. I looked up at the entrance where we had just come down from, but there was no sign of our pursuers. I guess that meant we managed to escape somehow. That aside, this was my first time learning that this underground passage even existed. On top of that, even though it was fairly close to the station, there wasn't a single person passing through it. One of the fluorescent lights that illuminated the tunnel was on its last legs, flickering on and off without end. There was the faint smell of rotting garbage in the air. It was the place that symbolized the underground side of Shibuya. If someone were to attack me here, even if I screamed as loud as I could, it may not even reach the outside. This was not a place I would ever want to come run to. Oh shit, here we go again. Still breathing heavily, I slowly examined FES's profile. Well, I mean, I feel like we've been going on a low here. I went bad, then good. So, how about we keep the ball rolling by picking nothing this time? She was a charismatic songstress who captivated the youth of Shibuya. People even called her a prophet. And now that very same FES was here alone with an otaku freak piece of shit like me, I wasn't sure what to make of it. Her forehead was bleeding with sweat, with several drops running down her cheeks. She was wiping it off with the back of her hand. Her breasts, exposed for her camisole, rose and fell with every breath she took. A glimpse providing healthy eroticism in an atmosphere flowing with in one day. Moe didn't do it justice. The best and only possible word befitting of her was erotic. Yeah, I get that. She was tall and had a great body, and she looked like a model. Though sure, she was popular with the guys too. I mean, who doesn't dig emo, you know? Wait, what kind of stupid shit was I thinking about? Did I forget the situation I was in?
追われてたわね。警察。
I nodded in response. It wasn't just the police. Yule was following me too, but I was too exhausted to tell her that.
私も同じ。
What? Huh? What was that supposed to mean?
私が書いた歌詞となんとかって呼ばれてる事件との関係についてだって。
Oh. Shit.
しつこく聞かれたわ。
Were those really the cops, though? New Gen. The lyrics at FS had one matched up with the string of incidents. That was why all of her sheep wouldn't shut up with all those rumors. They've been saying that she was a prophet.
私、疑われてるみたい。
Is the New Gen criminal? I thought the same thing back when I first heard her lyrics. Hell, I even thought that FES herself was Shogun. But considering the fact that she saved me, she probably wasn't. Putting all that aside, I wondered why FES was even there. Her saving me must have just been a coincidence. Yeah, it had to be. I mean, I've been right in front of the concert venue, so there was probably just another concert today.
君
Maybe.
が追われてるのはなぜ？何か悪いことでもしたの？
作られた。あの女、僕のこと作ったんだ。ニュージェネの犯人にされる。
Who? You was trying to set me up. God damn it, Shogun and that girl were going to ruin my life.
そう。容疑者候補ね。私たち。
But why was she laughing?
僕は無実だ。
I yelled out frantically, my voice reverberated loudly throughout the underpass, but I couldn't stop now.
事件を目撃しただけだ。証拠品を勝手に持ち帰っちゃったけど、それだけ。僕殺してない。
それなら。
FES whispered, returning to her original dispassionate voice.
きっとそれは導きなのよ。
Guidance?
大いなる存在による。
Another fucking mental case? Another goddamn Chumbuyu?
君の見たものが事実だったか幻だったかは些細なこと。
Another fucking mental case. That horrible scene. Was there any possibility that it had all been just an illusion? But it all felt so real.
君が今抱いている苦しみや怒りは必要なものだったということよ。
What was she saying? I was utterly dejected. I'd been slightly suspicious back at the concert, and I turned out to be right. FES really was a total schizo freak. They say there's a fine line between genius and insanity, but this is pushing it.
だから早く見つけて
Oh shit.
剣をつけて
Oh fuck! I was taken aback. That was what FES had told me back when we met at school. If you do, you'll be granted salvation. She said this before. Aside from the police, what scared me the most was Shogun and his underlings. I had no idea why, but they were all trying to trap me, and they all clearly had malicious intent. In order to save myself from them, in order to protect myself, I needed...
ディソード
そうよ
Fess's lips twisted into the shape of a smile.
勉強したみたいね
それなら手に入れた僕はディソードを持ってる今家に
知ってるわ
Whoa. She knew? How did she know?
見たから君が渋谷のど真ん中歩いていたの
Whoa.
大きなおもちゃを抱きしめて恥ずかしそうにしてたわね
Huh. Was she talking about the day I bought the DLI sword? Ah, Fess had seen me fuck my wife. Wait a minute. What did she just said?
おもちゃ
The smile had already disappeared from Fess's face. She glanced at my face and let out a small sigh. Her sense of ennui, or aloofness, was so pure, it made me feel uneasy.
偽物だと思うわあなたの買った剣は
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking. I wasn't even that surprised. I expected it honestly. The sword I bought was way too cheap compared to the one Sena had. It didn't even glow. Besides, the idea that a sword that would supposedly bring me salvation was being sold for 10,000 yen alongside sex toys was the least anime thing possible. So yeah, I wasn't surprised. Instead, I felt a furious surge of anger well inside me. Anger at the gloomy shopkeeper who tricked me. Anger at myself for being so pathetic that I betrayed that easily. Anger at FES for saying nothing meaningful in the slightest sense of just giving me a straight answer.
じゃあ
I stood up and moved closer to Fess. Normally I would have never done something like that, but I was desperate. I've been being chased by you and the police only a few moments ago, and I was absolutely terrified. Not only that, but in the past month or so, I experienced countless bad thoughts. It was all too much for me. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to get my hands on a sword so I could get back to my peaceful way of life.
教えてよディソードどうやって手に入れるのか
Fess's expression stiffened, then she turned to me.
見て
Oh shit. She suddenly thrust the palm of her white hand out in front of me. Stopping me from coming any closer, Fess curled her right hand into a fist. And upon swinging her hand behind her in a motion resembling a back fist, together with a sound akin to that of glass breaking, the empty space cracked, and then it shattered. My eyes went wide. I was speechless. The FES stared at me. Her expression had not changed in the slightest. Within the cracks of the shattered space was a deep darkness spreading wide. With her hand buried between the fissures, Fess pulled her hand back toward her with tremendous force. Oh, shit. Holy fuck. And now within that hand was a gigantic sword.
ソード
The fissures in the empty space were repaired in an instant. The cracks disappeared as if nothing had even happened. It all had happened in the span of a few seconds. Had that been a magic trick? Or what was I seeing, just a delusion? It was very far too removed from reality. I couldn't believe what had just happened right in front of me. This was a fantasy anime.
この剣は 命運を握るもの。
Fate? That sword. It was the same one she'd been wielding at the concert. The same one I'd mistaken for a microphone stand. Its shape almost looked like a battleship ripped straight from a sci-fi anime.
この剣は嘆きを収束させたもの。
What? There were no straight lines to be found on it, and yet it appeared incredibly sharp, incredibly beautiful, incredibly sinister.
この剣は超越した場所に干渉するためのもの。
Transcendental place? In that if you so much as touched it, your fingers would be severed from the bone.
超越した場所って。
I was mesmerized. Her DI sword utterly captivated me, which was why I asked her that without thinking.
異空間のようなもの。
Oh boy, info dump time. This was definitely an anime at this point.
同一次元上にあるもう一つの可能性、あるいは妄想。
Another reality? A delusion?
言い方にあんまり意味はないわ。唯一確かなの。この剣もその領域に存在しているということ。
So in other words, she was saying that her DI sword was a product of her delusions? Did that mean that the supernatural phenomenon I'd seen before had also been delusions? Had they not been real?
そんなのありえない。
そう。
If it was a delusion, then why was I seeing Fess's sword right now?
言葉に引きずられてはダメよ。後ろを振り返ってみて。
What? I was baffled at Fess's request, but I complied anyway. Behind me is a flight of stairs, and on those stairs... What the fuck is happening? Was Fess wearing her school uniform? Fess was standing right beside me. Fess was also standing on the stairs right in front of me. Two of the same person in the same place. Completely and utterly frustrated, I relentlessly snapped back and forth between the two Fesses over and over again, comparing them. They were exactly the same, right down to their facial features, height, and hairstyles. The only differences were their clothes and whether or not they were carrying a sword. They weren't twins or anything like that, and they didn't just look alike. They were one and the same. Yeah, Jesus, God. Yeah, you know what? I feel like this story is a lot fucking wilder than Steins Gate. That's for damn sure. Because I don't remember, but like episode fucking 10 of Steins Gate or whatever chapter we're on, chapter 4, where we had this shit. God damn, man.
これも君の妄想よ。
The two Fesses said that at the exact same time. My head started to hurt. What kind of insane phenomenon was this shit? What the hell was happening? Okay, back with Bam. As he walked cautiously through the narrow, trash-ridden streets of Mayo Macho, Bad Yujiri jammed one hand inside his pants pocket. Inside, he found a few dozen small coins.
先輩、貼り付けの現場に何があるっていうんですか?
What the fuck is going on? Why the fuck were there two Fesses? What the fuck is going on?
もう事件から2週間以上経ってるし、散々調べられた後っすよ。新しい証拠なんて出てきませんって。
God damn it, what is with mystery? What's with detectives and fucking magic, you know, man? People suddenly getting weapons? This is just another rendition of Yume Neko, son of a bitch. His partner, Detective Suwa, had been walking behind him, grousing in an irritated voice for quite some time. That was understandable, of course, as the job originally assigned to them had been to tail an important witness for the Nujin cases, Nishijou Takayumi. However, the two of them had abandoned their tailing mission and had instead come to the scene of the further gen incident, colloquially known as a crucifixion. Ban had decided to abandon the original task of tailing Nishijou Takumi, forcing the burden onto some other detective in the same jurisdiction. Okay. Okay, so... So... Was the guy on the bench banned then? Or was that the different... No. I feel like Takumi would recognize Ban. Because, like, he already met... Well... I mean, Takumi's been involved in other shit, so he could possibly... Maybe that was the other detective, and they just never actually did tail Takumi. The Wookiee detective Sura was not pleased by this.
やっぱまずいっすよ。尾行に戻りましょう。
The Wookiee detective had consistently been pushed around by a Sena finding explanation and could not stand it. For that reason, they had been insistently trying to persuade Ban for a long while now, but to this, Ban only said,
いいから黙ってついてこいって。
He remained aloof and refused to heed his junior's perfectly sound arguments. Finally, the Adwaz came across a narrow road blocked off by yellow barricade tape. Or maybe they were the ones chasing after Takumi at the moment. Whatever. As Sua let out the latest in his myriad of sighs, his cell phone began vibrating near his chest. He quickly took out his phone, which had been set to vibrate, assumed the look of a capable detective, and pressed the accept button.
スワス。はい。はい。
As he listened to Sua's voice coming from behind him, Ban came to a stop in front of the barricade tape. Behind that tape was a crime scene. The deep darkness had settled over the area just as it had when the crime had been committed. But now there were no remaining traces of the incident, save for the barricade tape.
見失った？
Okay, no. So that was... Okay. No, that wasn't them. That was the other detective. Got it.
女か。やられたっすね。とりあえず、深センの家に戻ってほしいっす。
That's why you gotta just let the game play out, Void, and just let it, continue on just for a couple more minutes.
はい。張り込んでてください。いやいや、大丈夫っすよ。責任はバン警部補が取るっすから。
Ban smiled warily upon hearing that. Zula could be surprisingly shrewd. Of course, Ban had no intention of placing the blame onto his subordinates, nor onto the detective he had placed in charge.
なるべく早くこっちも合流します。本当申し訳ないっす。お願いします。
Right as Sua hung up the phone and returned his begrudging gaze to Ban ducked out of their tape. Sua had no choice but to reluctantly accompany him.
見失ったって？
尾行に気づかれたっす。直前にネットカフェで人騒動あったみたいっすし。
Okay, so I was wrong. It's not the damn company. It's actually the cops.
女っての？
岸本綾瀬っす。
お騒がせバンドの嬢ちゃんか。つながりは？
同じ学校の同じ学年っすね。他は今のところ特に。クラスメートでもないっす。
This goddamn academy, man. Ban brought a hand to his chin, savoring the rough texture of his stubble for a moment. After which he took out several coins from his pocket and started counting them in the dark one by one. Zilla stared at his eccentric senior with a puzzled look on his face.
何してるんすか?
Try to use my visual calculus right now, Zilla.
よりによって5円玉だけありゃしね。そうだ、お前5円玉持ってねえか？
はあ。
Perplexed, Sua took a 5-yen coin out from his wallet and held it out to Ban. However, instead of taking the shirt away, Ban tore the bottom button off the shirt he was wearing. The fuck? He then untied the thread fastened to the button.
先輩、ついに頭おかしくなったんすか?
Are you trying to fucking do the old coin on a string trick, man?
生意気な口聞くようになったじゃねえか。
Ben chuckled and widely whapped Sua on the head. He then took the thread and weaved it through the hole in the center of the coin.
よし。お前にやらせてやるよ。
After pinching both ends of the thread with his fingers, Ben let the 5 yen coin hang down and handed it to his junior.
振り子っすか？
ああ。
Ben smiled mischievously.
こいつが事件の重要なヒントを与えてくれるかもしれないぜ。
マジっすか？バンさん、勘弁してほしいっすよ。そのために仕事をほっぽってここまで来たんすか？
Sua's tone was almost mournful. He had been pushed around countless times by Ban before now, but this time Ban had finally managed to utterly stump the Wookiee detective. Can't be a great detective if you aren't a little crazy.
サイキック操作とかダウジングとか
Drowsing. I think I've heard the drowsing before. Oh, technique for locating groundwater, mineral deposits, or various other things by relying on the movement of a rod pendulum or other similar technology. It is used to angled rods, receiving the form of L-shaped wires. It's called a downser. But I believe the human body has an internal magnet that reacts to underground water veins and other objects, and this causes muscles to move unconsciously. Apparently, that this is why drowsing rods appear as if they move by themselves. Interesting. Yeah, I've never heard of that term before. It's unfamiliar, but no.
その手のテレビでも見て影響を受けたんすね、先輩。
そういうお前も詳しいじゃねえの。
いや、まあ自分も見たは見たっすよ。先週のユーリ・ブライトマン。
Yuri Brightman.
ユーリ・ブライトマンっすよ。今話題になってるアメリカの超能力捜査官っす。
Of course, a psychic detective. Look, I was watching an episode of Psych, alright? Or Monk, or Sherlock, or whatever fucking detective show is.
俺が見たのはそんなチャラチャラしたもんじゃねえんだよ。どこかのお偉い大学教授が出ててな。
でもテレビっすよね。
ちいち文句の多いやつだ。やってみりゃわかる。ほら、いいから吊るしてみろって。
When his senior issued that request, Sua did not have any room to refuse. His lips were pursed in a sullen manner, but he reluctantly accepted the 5 yen coin. He pinched the ends of the string and began to twirl it around in a circle, creating centrifugal motion. It was too dark for either of them to see it clearly, so Ben flicked on a 100 yen cigarette lighter and used it as their light source.
先輩ってタバコ吸いましたっけ？
10年以上前に禁煙したよ。なんでだ？
Yeah, nice.
ライター持ってたっすから。
こういうこともあろうかと用意しといたんだよ。
Every detective's gotta have a lighter on him, alright, Sua?
はは。で、これで何がわかるんす？
いろいろ動かしたり止めたりしてみろ。
Ben monitored the movement of the 5 yen coin intently. Ban's eyes were so intently serious, Sua could no longer complain about this being a pointless excursion.
やっぱり
Now it all makes sense.
な。わかるか？
何がっす？
五円玉の動きだよ。
Oh
さっき
shit.
から少しだけ楕円を描いてるような気がしねえか。
Using the thread as support, the dangling 5 yen coin was slowly revolving around in a circular motion. Sua cocked his head.
力の入れ方とかじゃないんすかね。
お前、楕円に回るように意識してやってんのか？
いや、結構適当にくるくると。
もっと手を動かさねえようにやってるわ。
No.
はあ。
Sua consciously tried to move his hand in a circular fashion, but no matter how hard he tried, the trajectory drawn by the 5 yen coin was always elliptical in shape. Huh.
しいな。
Interesting.
意識的に違う形にしようとしてもできねえだろ
Ban's face was full of pride. Tsuo, on the other hand, was still not convinced and continued with what was sway in his quest to try and change the motion of the pendulum.
まあ渋谷のどこでもこの現象が見られるわけじゃねえがそれでも十数箇所はここみてえな場所があるらしいぜ
確かに不思議っすね。でもだから何なんす？
Ban looked up in satisfaction, put his lighter back in his pocket, and retrieved the hand fan that he had stabbed between his belt and his pants.
お前渋谷がなんでここまで若者を引きつけるか知ってるか
Ooh.
5円玉が楕円を描くからっすか？
Sua thought he was making a clever jab, but Ban nodded readily in response, calmly fanning his face all the while.
まあそういうことだ
What?
なぜこの渋谷という場所は若者たちをこんなにも引きつけると思う
Dude, what the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? What? Okay, I'm trying to make it make sense to myself. Okay. So I feel like we had a huge revelation at the beginning of this episode of a possible solution to all the crazy shit that's been happening here, right? With the oh my gosh, he's still blinking when I pause the fucking game. That's creepy. Anyway, besides the point. Okay, I feel like we had a big revelation at the fucking beginning of this episode with the whole patent from America to create visual to pretty much take control of people's eyes. Right, I feel like that was a solution. But we still have the fact that Takumi could still be the new gen killer. We still had that scene where he swept walk and went up to his computer and typed as Shogun. We still have that scene as well. We still have the whole thing of who the fuck is Shogun? How did he communicate with Takumi, perhaps taking control of that technology in order to transfer Takumi's consciousness to like the real Shibuya or something like that? Perhaps. And obviously this organization has been keeping an eye on Takumi for a long time in order to use him as perhaps a guinea pig because he's so susceptible to delusions because he has an illness. He has a mental illness. What that is probably left ambiguous on purpose, but yeah, something. Then we have the fact of Yua, who believes that Takumi is the new gen killer, trying to help him by putting him in the hospital and stuff like that. But obviously Takumi just sees the hatred, just hates her for good reason, honestly, within his delusional mind. And then there's also the police that's actually tailing after him, which hasn't been going well at all. The police have also been looking to Fess as well. Then we have the swords, the DI swords, which come from delusions. And the way she described it is that delusions, they're not just delusions, but perhaps all of the delusions we've been seeing are possibly like visions from other possibilities that could possibly happen. So, aka, I guess, kind of alternate universes of like, if a certain set of conditions were met, this could actually happen in reality. So I guess in one of those realities, these swords are actually real. These swords are created. And that is how people are able to access them by using these delusions. How people are able to make chains, as we saw from the beginning with Sena with the chain. She took that chain from a delusion, aka perhaps an alternate universe, in order to lead Takumi to her. And she probably did the same thing she did the opposite with the train. I feel like she put like maybe a force field around the train, or made it so that other people couldn't see the train because nobody else was getting on that train. Like people didn't see the train at all because in their point of view, that train did not exist for like a certain amount of time. And then once she left, the train reappeared in their perception of reality. Okay. But why the fuck are there two Fesses? I have no idea. What the fuck's up with that coin? I have no idea. How come so many youths go to Shibuya? I have no fucking idea. But I mean, I feel like this is a good stopping point right here, because I feel like we're just going to get more and more shit. We are really in the meat of this right now, and I'm just trying to wrap my entire head around this. What the fuck is happening? So yeah, so right now, what I believe is that these quote unquote delusions aren't really, they're delusions, but they're things that could actually happen in different universes. And that's how people are able to access these swords. Because in some possible universe, a sword is created like this. A sword actually does exist, and you just have to have the eyes to see it, perhaps, or the delusion to make it a reality to yourself and to others who have that same type of, I guess you could say, power of being delusional. It's kind of like, honestly, the best comparison I can make it to is like stands from JoJo, where only people with strong wills or strong enough personalities in JoJo are able to have stands. Which is why nearly every stand user, besides like the main cast or whatever, are fucking insane. That's why every single person Takumi has been in contact with who are able to access these DL swords are kind of a little bit nuts. Like Takumi himself. They're all a bit nutty. But, that's the whole, strong personality, strong-willed, or strong in, their personal reality, I guess you could say. Like, maybe that is it. They're so strong in their own belief of their own worldview and of their own delusions of what they think is reality. They're able to access these swords. Like, perhaps Yua is able to get it. Fess is able to get it as well because we actually don't know what she believes in and what she thinks the world is like, but a perfect example would be Sumio. That's not her name. I can't remember her name right now. But her, Girl B, from the beginning, believes that the world is corrupt, that multiple factions are out to get them, and that, that the only person she can rely on is herself. And because of that self-centeredness, she's able to access these delusions of the swords. So that's what I believe. That's, after all that craziness, that's what I've comprehended, what I think is happening. That could be fake, that could be false. Perhaps don't. Well, I mean, you can correct me, but like not with future information. With like information, maybe I did misunderstood something. Please tell me down in the comments below if I did actually misunderstood something or whatever. Don't try to swallow me with like future information, but for right now, this is what I think is happening here, because there's a lot to take in. This episode has been a lot to take in, but it's so damn good. We're finally getting answers as to what the fuck is going on, though, and it's a lot crazier than I fucking expected. Which I kind of love it for. I kind of love crazy shit like this. And I can't wait to see where the hell this goes next time. So yeah, if you guys have enjoyed this episode, hit that subscribe button. If you want to tell me something, put it down in the comments below. Check out Discord server around in, or my Twitter. Check description below. And yeah, this has been Voidlego. I'll see you guys next time. See ya!